Birthright. It gives you a random effect based off the character you are playing. But where do they all rank on a tier list? That's what we're gonna find out here today, fellas. And hey, if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing, I would appreciate that. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subs by the end of the year. I'ma say that'd be insane. Enjoy the video. So starting off with Isaac. So Isaac's Birthright effect is on all item pedestals, as you can see here. All of them cycle between two options, and it gives you the choice to choose between one or the other. So basically at this point, you are just playing Tainted Isaac while having a D6. And while not having the whole thing where you're limited to 8 items in total, you can have infinity items, and it's really good. What I'm getting at, this is really, really, really good. If you ever find the Birthright on just normal Isaac at any point during your run is basically just one, as long as it's not like an item you're finding super late in the game, even on the mid floors or even on the room floor, I would pick this up and it would be fantastic. Just because the amount of times, the amount that this helps you rig your run going forward is actually just insane. On top of you having the D6, listen, even if you don't like one of the 2 items that pop up, you can just roll it and just turn it into an item that you do like. Okay, and for that reason, this goes into the S++++ tier, just because at any point in the run, if you find this item, it will in fact carry your run outright. I mean, basically by itself, obviously you need to find other items to help carry your run, but this is like a big benefactor to basically make your run broken, crazy, stupid. S+, crazy good. It's really good. Yeah, go down the hole. Okay, cool. Next up on the chopping block is Magdalene. Her Birthright is actually a really, really, really cool effect in my opinion. As you can see, it raises your max HP to 18. You can now have 18 heart containers instead of your max 12. Now, if you guys don't remember or never played the Flash version of Isaac, this is kind of a callback to that, because in Flash Isaac, you were able to have basically infinite HP. There was no cap. Obviously, the screen could only hold so much, but in terms of actually having health, you could have as much as possible. So to me, a guy who's played Flash way back in the day, this is a really cool callback to, hey, this is kind of like, hey, you have more health now. I don't know. I feel like it's just such a cool effect to have, but being able to have 18 heart containers, realistically, is not that useful. Sadly, I do have to throw this in C tier. I actually don't think it's that good, because I mean, if you're at the point where you need to have 18 hearts instead of 12, if you're getting hit that often where you need that much HP, you're probably never going to get to 18 or even past 12. And if you're good enough at the game, you're not getting hit anyway, so what's the point of having 6 more hearts? Yeah, it's like a kind of a pseudo wafer if you want to think about it that way, where it almost doubles your HP. I mean, if you have this on top of wafer, you have what, 18 times 2, 36? 36 hits of damage? That's a lot of hits of damage. I don't know. I don't think it's that good. It's cool. Very cool. But realistically, it's not the best thing out there. Next one up is Cain's Birthright. So Cain's Birthright effect is a bit weird. So as you can see in the video here, I picked up Birthright. I'm going to the next floor. Let me zoom forward a little bit in the video. But basically what this Birthright does, it gives you +1 luck outright. But on top of that, on every single floor, not just the even number floors, but on every single floor, you can find special arcades like the one being shown here. This arcade is not natural. This is a birthrighted arcade. So basically what this Birthright does, every floor except for some very specific floors has a very high chance to contain an upgraded arcade that generally contain more machines. This includes odd number floors, the cathedral, on Shio. Arcades will appear even if Cain is not holding 5 cents. So there's no limit. Arcades will just now show up for you basically every floor. Almost guaranteed. Okay, now this, in my opinion, is a very underrated Birthright. I think it is actually crazy, crazy good, just because obviously there's no bad arcades. There are arcades that don't have machines that maybe you can't play. But if you go to the next floor and find an arcade with a crane game, or even one of the ones with the soul heart machine or something, even if you don't have the money, you can use bombs to blow it up to get more resources back, which potentially obviously will give you health or keys or just other resources you may need. This is a very good thing to get. Obviously, be able to get more resources, to get more items, just more options for you to spend your money and to get more things is always good. Now, outright, I don't think it will carry your run, just because, as I said before, some of these upgraded arcades are not going to be as broken. Like for this one here, for looking at what's happening in this room, what have I done here? I've lost all of my money. that's about it. I mean, I had one arcade machine, which maybe will pay out eventually. Maybe. It's not the best. I do think it is really cool and is good, but I don't think it's the thing that's going to be carrying your run. It's just nice to have during your run. So with all that being said, I threw it in B tier. I think there are better birthrights than this, but I don't think this one should be any lower than B just because of how good it could be. And I'm just showing off here. Later in the run, I went to the cathedral, and you can see there are arcades here as well. So, not lying, those exist. But anyways, yeah, a solid B tier for me. Next one up is both Judas and Dark Judas. They have the same birthright here. Not Tainted Judas, Dark Judas, the one from Judas' Shadow, the item. Anyways, what the birthright does here. The Book of Belial becomes a passive item that can be held other active items basically one for one like the Book of Virtues. Now, what I'm showing off in the video here is there are different active charges that are on the item. They give you different amounts of damage. So whenever you use your active item, you still get the damage up from Book of Belial, and there is a little synergy that happens whenever you use the active item as well. And I'm just showing off the different ones here as the different kind of damage up you get based off of the amount of charges on the active item you use. Let me read the rest of the effect here. If Judas is not holding the Book of Belial, he does receive it automatically. The damage boost received from the Book of Belial scales with the amount of charges the active item has. May not work with one-time use items, items with unlimited use items, timed recharge, or items that do not follow normal room charges as a special... I don't know what I'm reading off here. This doesn't make sense to me. But basically, at the end of the day, it's just a really, really cool synergy in my opinion. There are a lot of cool active item synergies you can have with Book of Belial. Now, I don't honestly think it's as good as the Book of Virtues, just because most of the synergies that happen here is just you're getting an extra damage up, which at the end of the day is super sick. And the reason I have this at S tier, which may catch a few people off guard, not just because of how cool it is, but just because it allows you to hold 2 active items. And I think being able to hold 2 different active items at the same time is crazy good. Now, obviously, you're not able to change out the Book of Belial for another book or anything like that, but the Book of Belial just as is crazy good because it obviously gives you the damage up whenever you use any other active with it, but it also gives you the innate deal chance. So since whenever you get Birthright, you're basically upgrading your active item to be a permanent deal chance up, damage up. It synergizes with other active items. You can now hold 2 at the same time, and you get a damage up, and it's crazy good. And if you find a 12 charge active item like I did in this run, the damage up you get is really, really good. Okay, I'm just saying, it's really good. I'm throwing it in S tier. Maybe a overrated pick, I don't know. I may get some flack for this, I have no idea. Also, I thought Birthright would like revive me. It just kills you, because you don't have any hearts. Anyways, it's good, it's S tier. Next one up is Blue Baby. So Blue Baby's Birthright is the first F tier. Congratulations, Blue Baby, F tier. And as we just saw in the video, you can probably rewind it if you want to. But what the Birthright effect does is whenever you pick up an item that gives you a red heart, instead of it just giving you 1 soul heart instead, since Blue Baby can only have soul hearts, the item now gives you 1 additional soul heart on top of it. So I'm actually going to go back here so we can watch that again. So obviously you pick up Birthright. Now, dog food typically gives you 1 HP up. And right now you can see it gives you 2. Now, raw liver typically gives you 2 red HP. And on Blue Baby, it would be 2 soul hearts naturally. But instead of 2 HP, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got 2 additional ones just because I had Birthright. Now, listen, let's be honest with ourselves, folks. This is actual, if I may say so myself, dog shit. This is not good. Okay, you get 1 more additional soul heart. Yippee, you found like a tinted rock. This is equivalent to finding a tinted rock, but like probably a little worse, because you probably find HP ups as often as you find tinted rocks. I mean, listen, if you're mad unlucky and all of your boss drops are HP, cool, this gives you some use for that. Okay, it gives you a little bit more HP, so maybe you can like feel comfortable going devil deals and everything. But like, listen, I'm trying to give this a reason to be good. I don't think it's good at all. You just found an extra soul heart. Yippee, good for you, but you need to be quote-unquote lucky enough to get an HP up, which you don't want in the first place. So it just I don't know. It makes HPs up a little bit better, but like, listen, if that's all this is doing, this is bad. This is bad. It deserves F tier. Let's go. Let's go, Blue Baby. Doing the Lord's work. First F tier. Next Birthright up here is the one for Eve, Forever Cursed. Now, what this one does is actually crazy good, or at least crazy good enough, in my opinion. What it does, it makes it so the Whore of Babylon item effect is always active regardless of your current red HP Alongside that, Dead Bird is active without taking damage. So what this does, in case you don't know, Whore of Babylon will be active on Eve if you have 1 red HP or less. Now, obviously, this makes it so you can now comfortably have more red HP, so even if you go Angels and find the body, you still have the active damage, or the passive damage from Whore of Babylon no matter what. So it's very nice. But on top of that, the Dead Bird being active 24/7 is very nice as well. I mean, the damage it's doing isn't nothing. It's something. It's not crazy. But obviously, it does help out in certain fights. It's not going to be crazy for you, but it is very nice. But on top of that, basically what this Birthright ends up being is you pick it up, you get a little Haunt Familiar. Alongside that, you get a damage up and a pretty decent speed up from Whore of Babylon. There is no downsides to this. It is all very, very good. Now, this in and of itself will not carry your run, because honestly, this is just like you getting a damage and speed up, which is cool. But this will not carry anything. So, just for that, it's not anything above an A tier in my opinion. It is very good, which is why it's A. But listen, it's good. It's good. It's A. I don't know. I don't think it's S. Fight me. I think. I don't know. A tier. Next one up, we got Samson and his Birthright here. So what his Birthright does is very lackluster, in my opinion. It makes it so Bloody Lust, the item Samson starts with, grants 4 more damage and boosts at 0.2 interval. So it gives you a little more damage, and you can proc it a little more often. Obviously, it gives you a new maximum total of 14 damage up that can potentially happen. As we can see in the video here, gave me 14 damage up. Now, what do you need for this to happen? And why did I throw it in D tier? You need at least 5 HP on levels before the womb for this to take a full effect. So if you find an IV bag, or if you have like blood donation machines on the ready, it's nice. It's nice to have, don't get me wrong. But in most cases, this is going to do absolutely nothing for you. This is an extreme example I have here where I gave myself too much HP, where you can actually see the damage boost it gives you. And there is some use here, which is why it's not an F tier. But the use is here. Like, fellas, if you're not bad, you will never get hit. Therefore, this will never do anything. And even just Bloody Lust outright, I mean, it's not going to do much for you. I mean, it helps a little bit on Samson. But, like, being able to proc it more often means you need to be hit more often, which means you need to be able to be hit in a good way more often. Now, if you're running into enemies to get this damage to proc, I think you're a little bit insane, because the damage that it gives you per hit isn't a lot. It is helpful if you get hit, 10 times? But, like, if you have to get to that point to help yourself deal damage, I don't think your run's good as is. So it's D tier. I don't know where else I could throw it. It's not the worst. Definitely not the best. It does something. Does not do a lot, though. So, solid D tier in my opinion. Let's go. Look at the graph. It's just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It's crazy. Next one up, we got Azazel and their Birthright here. It's Wide Breath. What it does, it makes your breath wider. Whoa. Basically makes it so Azazel's Brimstone Beam now deals a little more damage, or not, I'm sorry. It deals a little more range. Not range. What am I even saying? I should restart this, but I'm not going to. Basically, it makes it so Azazel's breath is now wider. It does not do any more damage. It does not give you any more range. It just makes it wider. That's all it does. Now, I think some people have the mindset where this is giving you extra damage or range or something, which it is not doing. In my head, this is actually not very good. Now, it is cool. I will agree, this is cool. Having bigger breath, funny. It looks cool, it looks sick. But it's not actually doing anything more. The best case scenario is you find a room with 1 million spiders, and you can wipe them out easy peasy because your breath is now super wide. But other than that, there's no real use for this. It is just nice, but it's nothing crazy. That's why it's D tier, because it's just cool, and that's really about it. Next one up is Lazarus. Now, you may be a little confused why it says NA. It's because the Lazarus Birthright actually doesn't do anything until you revive and become Lazarus Risen. Ignore that. But Lazarus Risen, what it does whenever you then die and become Lazarus is you basically get the red stew effect. So it grants you 7.2 damage up, which fades over time. Until the effect completely fades, killing an enemy will restore a small amount of damage to the bonus. So basically, if you continue to run through rooms and murder enemies, you will maintain your damage up. But again, this is only active when you die as Lazarus. Now, dying as Lazarus innately does give you a damage up, since the newer update and Repentance happened and made it pretty good. But still, dying as Lazarus is scary. Because if you're doing this on later floors, obviously whenever you die and revive, you're going to come back with 1 red HP. That's all you got. Okay, you're going to be one shot very close to death. You do get the damage up to help you out, but I honestly don't think the damage up it gives you from the red stew effect is enough to really make up for, hey, I'm about to die. Because if I'm on the womb afterwards, very close to death, I'm not going to purposefully die. I may do it in the devil room to maybe pick up an item and then come back and then maybe start of next floor. I have a bunch of damage to help me clear the early rooms. But I mean, if that's not the case, I don't think it's that good. I do think they can be useful in those exact scenarios I said, so I am going to throw it in C tier just because the damage up is nice. And on early floors, you will be wanting to proc this, obviously, because you do want to die early on in Lazarus to make sure you get the permanent damage ups every time you die. So it does have use. I'm going to say it later, probably not that useful, but it is nice. So C tier. C tier. Next one up is Eden's Birthright. Ignore the fact that I started with Twisted Pair in this run. What this one does, it creates 3 random items from any item pool. Any item pool. Only 1 item can be taken. All the others will disappear after you pick up the 1 item. Now, please note, this ignores item weight and can spawn items that have already been taken during the run. And keep a note, the ignoring item weight part, which makes it so items of higher quality that have a lower weight, things like Pyromaniac or Mega Blast, or just things with low weight, have an equal amount of chance to spawn, which means this can give you some crazy items. And keep in mind, this comes from any item pool at all, so it doesn't matter where you pick it up or where you get it. You will always have the option of 3 most likely not terrible items, and even if there are 1 or 2 terrible items, as long as you have any kind of luck in your bones, you will have at least 1 half decent item to pick up. Now, overall, I think it's obviously very random. I'm going to give it into the A tier just because the amount of things this could give you, and it could be crazy, is very nice, alongside of it giving you the option of what to pick up. If it only spawned 1 item from a random pool, it wouldn't be as good as giving you the option of 3 and choosing 1. I do think it is very cool, and honestly, I think it's a callback to the Four Souls card game, because if you played the Four Souls card game, Eden plays exactly like that, where you get 3 random treasures and then you choose 1. Or is Four Souls referencing the game? I have no idea. Either way, I do think this is really good. It's only an A tier. I would love to throw it an S, but obviously the randomness of the item makes it so it's a little less crazy sometimes, but it could be crazy. It could be crazy. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's an A tier, fellas. Big A tier. Also, this run I had on the run is crazy, starting with Twisted Pair into Spoon Better into Apple. I listen, YouTuber luck is real. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. Next up is the Lost Birthright. What this one is, it's Better Destiny. It prevents items with the No Lost BR item tag from appearing, which, in case you don't know, is basically the items that include like HP ups or just things that are not useful to the Lost at all. Now, what this does, it automatically rerolls any of those existing items into something that is more beneficial from the Lost, and again, it is saying here, things like health ups or flight and or spectral tears upon taking damage will then be automatically rerolled. So keep in mind, this is not the same as Sacred Orb, where it makes low quality items better. You can still find 0 quality, quality 1, or low quality 2 items that aren't going to do much for you, like range ups and things like that. But it basically makes it so items you will find will always be useful in some way. Now, they can still be the quality 0 or quality 1, but they're always going to be at least giving you something, which is a lot better than finding an HP up, or finding dinner, or finding the transcendence noose that makes you fly. Like, you won't find that stuff anymore, which is crazy good. And for that, it is going in S tier, just because the amount of things this could give you instead of those crappy items is the potential is there. The potential is there to make your run always better. So I do like it as the Lost. I don't think it's crazy. If it was giving you the Tainted Lost effect, where like you got quality 3 and 4 items 24/7, yeah, it would be S+ tier, but that's not what this is doing. It just replaces any bad items with other items, which may also be bad, but at least they do something, you know? Anyways, it's an S tier, not an S+ tier. Call it a wrap. Next up is Lilith's Birthright. Now, this one here, it's a bit of a paragraph to read, so let me get started. Most familiars that normally follow Lilith would normally follow Lilith behind her. But instead of that, now they are positioned in front of Lilith. So now you can see in the video that's playing here that Brother Bobby and Dry Baby and even Spewer are now positioned right in front of Lilith. So whatever direction you are shooting, they will also be standing in front of you. So there are a lot of benefits to having this, because innately, the most troubling point of playing Lilith is aiming on Lilith. Just because you're not aiming as the character, you're trying to aim the incubus behind you, which is very much so a pain, especially if you're new. But the good part of having Birthright now is now that everybody is positioned in front of you, it makes aiming a whole lot easier. It is still a little different than playing a normal character, but it is more similar to playing somebody like Isaac now than to playing, you know, you're basically playing Incubus. So I do think it is nice. I do think this is very cool. The one thing here, it's very dependent on the amount of familiars you get in the game. Now, obviously, you start off with Incubus, and you start off with a Cambion Conception, which makes it so you basically will be guaranteed more familiars, but they're guaranteed the familiars you get could be something that like goes around the room, it doesn't go in front of you, and that doesn't synergize with this. But it is cool because in this clip here, you saw Dry Baby was blocking the tears that was shooting right in front of you, so it acts very similarly to a Trinity Shield. So there are some very niche cases where this could be very, very cool and very useful. I do think it is a bit RNG dependent just on the amount of familiars you get, but having Box of Friends, starting with Incubus, this just makes the character a lot more playable. It doesn't really do anything else besides that. It just makes aiming a lot easier. It doesn't boost your damage. It doesn't give you additional tiers. It is just nice to have overall, but it's not saving your run. If you know how to play Lilith as is, I don't think it's going to be doing much for you, which is why I'm throwing it in C tier. If you're new to the character and are struggling, this will help a lot. But if you're any kind of veteran who's played the game a few times before and know how to play Lilith, this is just a kind of a cool thing to get, but won't be doing too much for you. So C tier overall. That's where it stands. Next one up here is Keeper's Birthright. Coin up. All this does here, it makes it so Keeper's max HP is now 4 instead of 3. Wow, look at that go. 4 HP. So yeah, I mean, and usefulness, actually put this as at an A. Because one of the biggest struggles on Keeper is that you're limited to only 3 coin hearts, which obviously you cannot have half of coins. There are only 3 HP in total. So honestly, having 1 more HP will definitely help out, especially later in the game. Think when you're going to Delirium. Think you're going to Mega Satan fight, or even the Beast fight, or Dogma where you're struggling a bit, or going to Mother. It is always useful to have a little more HP, a little more cushion, to make sure you can get hit 1 or 2 more times. And especially if you don't have a wood and nickel payout or any synergies with that, it does help out to have just 1 additional hit on top of things on a character that is kind of struggling to make sure you live. And just because I think that's the most difficult part of playing Keeper, especially if you don't have the other, I think the passive thing where it gives you 1 additional HP to start off with. It's just you get more HP, 4 HP better than 3 HP. I don't think I have anything else to say besides that. Fellas, it's A tier, just because it helps the character. Fellas, next Birthright up here is Apollyon with the Regurgitating Void. Now, what this one does here, using Void has a 10% chance to spawn 1 previously destroyed passive item. Keep in mind, you still keep the stats. So what just happened here is I used Void so many times, the Sacred Hearts I voided up earlier, it now respawned 1 of those so I could pick it up. That's basically what happened here. Now, each absorbed passive item has an equal chance to be spawned. Spawned items can be spawned again even if they are not reabsorbed. Absorbing duplicates of the same item will make it more likely for that item to be spawned. So basically, if I absorbed, I think I absorbed like 5 or 6 different Sacred Hearts. Now Sacred Heart is most likely to spawn here. Keep in mind, it's the only item I have. And keep in mind, I have infinite charges on my active item that I am so gracefully showing off in this recording here. I don't know when I stop. But you can see how not very frequently I'm getting the spawn of the item. I am spamming Void and I only got it a handful of times. Well, it's enough to make me broken, but still. It is a very weirdly complicated Birthright effect, which doesn't actually do too much for me. I threw it in D tier just because I feel like the frequency in which you actually get an additional item is not too much, on top of the fact that most likely when you are avoiding an item, it is because the voided item or the item you want to, the item that's there is bad and you don't want it and you just want to make it into stats, which basically means you have a 10% chance to spawn a bad item and then you have to void it again to get more charges. And keep in mind, the bad items that you're voiding are more likely to return back up. So if you end up getting like a chain of bad items, you're only going to be getting those bad items going forward. So I don't think it's that good. I think it's stupid complicated for no reason at all, just to maybe get you additional stats every now and then. But the frequency in which it happens is not 10%. Maybe it is 10%. It just feels like it never happens, which I guess that is 10%. Either way, it's a D tier. I'm not a fan of this one. Next Birthright up here is the Forgotten. Basically makes it so the soul familiar you got will now not be chained to the Forgotten guy anymore, and they are free. Woohoo, freedom. So the coolest thing I just show off there is basically you can use this to kind of teleport back to the starting grid. Because no matter where you basically unspawn or no matter where you use it, you will always be teleported back to where the bony boy is. So for example, there I went into the curse room as the soul. I didn't find anything cool, and I just teleported back out. I didn't lose any HP at all, which I would typically do if I left the door normally. Anyways, there are some pretty cool uses for this. And on top of that, makes fighting later game bosses a lot easier if you want to do it only with the soul instead of using the bony boy itself. I do think it has its usefulness, not only in combat, but in utility as well, in getting pickups, getting consumables, and going into your boss challenge rooms, taking the item and leaving immediately without having to fight anything. It is just a lot safer. And if you go into a room, realize you're stuck or you're having trouble clearing the room, you can just teleport back to the bony boy who's back in the starting area, and just boom, bam, you can do it again. You can go a different way. You have options, fellas. You have options. So overall, I give this a B. I do think it is very nice. The utility this gives you is actually crazy good, in my opinion. Again, with the curse rooms, again, with the challenge rooms, being able to take it for free. I do think it's very nice. And the combat utility as well, to be able to basically position behind the bony boy, to not be able to not be limited to only the space around the bony boy. It is nice. It is very nice to get. I'm stalling a little bit because I want this fight to end, and then we'll end it very cleanly by hopping in the hole and boom, transition to the new character. Why did I go in here? Why did I do this? Oh, look at that. Because we stole it for free and then we teleported back out. Anyways, a B tier, fellas. Next one up is Bethany. So Bethany's Birthright, what it does, activating an item using your soul charges is free 50% of the time. Now, I chose a terrible example here with Satanic Bible, since on use, you cannot get a black heart, therefore you get 2 soul heart charges. But in cases like this where I use a Satanic Bible or any active item, with the soul hearts, you can see that the soul heart counter does not go down at all in some cases. I think we'll see some later in the run. But overall, this can be nice. Obviously, this can be nice. Obviously, dependent on the active item you have, if spamming it a whole bunch will help you out. In the case of this one with Satanic Bible, I don't think it was the best use for an example. I think it would be a lot better with something maybe like Mega Blast. Okay, a 12-room charge, getting to use that for completely free, 50% of the time, is crazy good, in my opinion. But, like, honestly, on top of that, the 50% of the time, you have to be lucky for it to proc. Now, obviously, for the first few procs I did on this run here, it wasn't very lucky. I think we can see at the very end of this one, I got crazy lucky. I think it did it for free, maybe 6 or 7 times in a row, which I'll do right here. Let's count. 1 time for free. 2 times for free. You can see the soul heart count actually going up. 3 times for free. 4 times for free. 5 times for free. 6 times for free. 7. 8. Okay, this is going a lot. 9. 10. 11. Okay, 11 times in a row. So if you get lucky like I did in this clip here, and you have a better active item that's not Satanic Bible and actually does something, this can be stupidly crazy good. Or if you get the opposite of it, you can have it do nothing for 11 times in a row, or even more than that. So I do think this is very, very middle of the road, because it's very luck dependent and very dependent on the active item you got. So, I mean, if you're able to generate more wisps with something like Butterbean, or I don't know why Butterbean was my example. Anyways, if you're able to make more wisps with a better active item, this can be good. Or if you don't have any active item at all, that's not good, it's not that useful, or if you get unlucky, it's not that useful. That's why I'm putting it in C tier at the end of the day, because it can be crazy. But I don't think the most of the time you're gonna be like, wow, this has really helped my run. If anything, you get to use it 1 time for free and you don't even notice it. So anyways, it's a C, maybe even a B, but right now it's just a C for me. That's fine. Last of the normal characters, we got Jacob and Esau. Their Birthright effect is the character who picks up Birthright gains copies of the 3 most recent passive items from the other character. Okay, now this can be crazy good. For this example here, obviously set to the extreme, with Magic Mush, Spoonbender, Tech 2, Sacred Heart, it's gonna be crazy good. But at the end of the day, if you can find this early on, and you can kind of build your run around this, it can be really, really, really good. Because obviously, this is just getting 3 free items for free. And if you're stacking all your items on one character, that's perfect, because then the other character can pick it up, and then get some decent items on their plate to help you out during the run. So, I think it's actually really good. There's not a whole lot to it, but I think that's the beauty of it, right? You get one character stacked, you get the other character to pick up the Birthright, and then therefore they are equally as stacked, and you can still stack your items on the original character, but now Esau is gonna be useful. Let's go. Esau going crazy. It's A tier, fellas. This is decent. This is decent. Next up, the first of the tainted characters, we got Tainted Isaac, which is one of the best birthrights out there. It is S tier, but what this one does, it expands the number of passive item slots you have as a character. Innately as Tainted Isaac, you can only hold 8 items, but if you find and pick up Birthright, you can now have 12 items in your inventory. This is alongside Birthright not taking up a slot itself, alongside you having the normal Tainted Isaac passive, 2 items flip-flopping back from one to the other, so you get choices of crazy item or another crazy item. Being able to basically it doesn't double the amount of items you can get. It halves it and then doubles the half. I can't do math, but you know what I'm saying. I put this at S tier and not S++ tier because this itself will not carry your run. You still need to find the broken items, but being able to have 4 additional items on top of the only 8 you can have before is so stupidly good. Okay, there's a reason this character can only hold 8 items because that's all they need. That's all they need to be broken stupid, and being able to have 4 more on top of that is insane. I'm kind of surprised Birthright only doesn't add 2 items to the slot. I feel like 2 would be good. 4 is actually nuts. 4 basically makes it so you're almost guaranteed to win the run. But again, you need to find the items to help you win the run, which is why it's not S++ tier. But still, S tier is crazy good, fellas. This is a good Birthright. This is like the thing I'm trying to look for is Tainted Isaac a lot of the time, just because it helps you synergize with so many more things. It is stupidly good. I don't know why I'm getting the key pieces. I'm done rambling. This, fellas, this is good. S tier. S tier. Next Birthright up, we got Tainted Magdalene. One of the, another kind of lame Birthright in my opinion. All it does here is what you can see. It adds 1 full red heart container to the ones that cannot deplete over time. It doesn't drain. So instead of having only 2 red heart containers that don't drain, you now have 3. Yippee! It's nice. Don't get me wrong. It does something. It does something, which is why it's not F tier. I just think it's very, very lame. I feel like they could have done a lot more with this Birthright, just in terms of the cool factor. In terms of usefulness as well, it's not that useful, because in my opinion, a later game, yeah, it's nicer to have 1 more HP, but I mean, you can still get the HP back from bosses, even if you're not doing the melee damage, so you're still going to be picking up HP even on longer boss fights, even in Delirium. There's options for you to pick up HP, or if you go into the battle, like, with full HP as is, you're not going to be drained down to the bottom by the end of the fight. Maybe you are. I don't know. In my opinion, it's only a D tier. It's not crazy good. It's not the worst, like, F tier thing ever. It's just kind of lame and not that useful, so it's going right there in D tier. Yippee. Fellas, next one up, we got another S++ tier Birthright. Let's go from Tainted Cain themselves. Obviously, I'm showing off here. You cannot pick up Birthright. You have to be able to craft Birthright, so I just gave it to myself with console. Don't worry about that part. But what the Birthright effect does for Tainted Cain, it makes it so the pickups you get from picking up items is you get a lot more pickups. You get a lot more stuff to work with. So the reason this is S++ tier is because this by itself can carry your run. Whenever you pick this up, whenever you actually are able to craft this item, basically any item or any item you try to pick up after will spawn more pickups, which then equal more items, which then if you craft it into other active items, which equal, it'll most likely spawn more than 8 consumables, which then you put in your bag to make more items, and then which make more consumables, which then makes more items, and then makes more consumables, and you can just repeat this forever until you have infinite items and you win the game. In that order. It's crazy. Listen, it's really good to be able to have a substantial amount of pickups. Even if on top of this, if you have like Mom's Key or something, to have even more pickups, it's crazy. Listen, the Tainted Cain, the name of the game is consumables, pickups. This item gives you more of that. Therefore, S++ tier, crazy good. You can rig the run even harder. I typically don't play with external item description. I think you're lame if you play with the external item description, which tells you all the recipes, which of how you make things. I don't play like that. I play like an OG, and I just make stuff up. Okay, I make my own soup. All right. Anyways, S++ tier. Where is it? Let me throw it up on the board next to Isaac. Let's go. The fella's up there. Tainted Cain, S+ tier in something. Let's go. Next one up is Tainted Judas. And what I'm showing off here is the actual Birthright effect. But what it does, it increases the range in which dark arts hits enemies and tiers. So you can see the little aura around Tainted Judas now after you pick up Birthright. So if any tier or enemy is within that little circle around you, it will be then popped by the what is it called? Dark arts. It's really good, and I'm showing it off in the mom's fight here, just to show how good this can be in a fight, in a bullet hell kind of fight, where there are a bunch of tears on screen. You get a bunch of damage up. Keep in mind, I have no other items besides Dark Arts. Now, Birthright, you can do this without Birthright, don't get me wrong, but having Birthright on top of this basically just makes it so much easier to hit a bunch of the tears on screen. Look at this. I hit like 20 things. That's crazy. That's crazy good. And this is actually just surprisingly useful. I don't think people really know how this works or how good the Birthright effect is on Tainted Judas. Because not only you can obviously see it increases the range that hits enemies in the tears, I do believe this also extends the amount of time you can stay in your Dark Arts. I could be very wrong, because it doesn't say it in the effect here, but I swear that's true. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm the guy who should know this, but I don't. Anyways, fellas, this is really good, especially in late game fights. It basically makes it so you don't even need any items to win the game. It's crazy good. Okay, just for that, it is A tier in my book. It's not S tier. Maybe it should be S tier. I don't know. Maybe I was being a little too mean about this one. I do think it's really good, but I mean, I think it's just Dark Arts in general. I don't think the Birthright is making it so you can't do that, because you could still do that with Dark Arts only. This just makes it so it's a little bit easier to do. So maybe, yeah, A tier. A tier, fellas. A tier. Fellas, can we get a round of applause to the second F tier character, which is also just the other form of Blue Baby? Very consistent, this character, in my opinion. I'm just throwing in an F right now while we're talking about it. But what the Birthright effect does for Tainted Blue Baby is, y'all know, the whole gimmick of Tainted Blue Baby is instead of having bombs, you know, have the little poop pickups, which you can then use to, you know, help you deal damage, to help blow things up in place of bombs. What the Birthright effect does, typically you can only hold up to 9 poops at a time. Now you can hold a whole 29 poops. So many poops, fellas, you can hold so many. Now, in my opinion, there is not any reason that you would be holding on to 29 poops at the same time. Now, the whole gimmick of Tainted Blue Baby is to consistently be using your poops, to be using them. And because of that, in that reason, typically when you're in an active and hostile enemy room, poops just kind of spawn when you're shooting. They spawn whenever you kill enemies. They spawn on room clear. You will be getting a lot of poops throughout the run, so there's no need for you to have 29 poops just saved up in your inventory. Now, the one thing that could potentially maybe save this, okay, if this maybe somehow made it so each poop spawned in an order, and you can actually sort out when you'll get bombs, and when you'll get the poison thing, and when you get the fire one, and the fly one, and the holy poop. If it somehow ordered it, that would be a whole lot better than just getting 29. Okay, because no matter what, you still don't know what kind of poop pickups you're gonna get. They could all be complete ass. They can all be the one single toot. I don't know. It's just bad. Fellas, I'm being enraged. This is an F tier. There's so much potential this character could have, but the Birthright is so goddamn shitty because he's the shitty character and is supposed to be bad. Haha, funny. Good one, Edmund. I'm pissed. F tier. You're going down there again. I don't know. I got so heated. I'm calm. Don't worry. I'm calm. Next up is Tainted Eve. Keep in mind, I do have a mod that makes all the blood clots into cool little Pikmin. But anyways, what this one does, it makes it so whenever any clot dies, as you can see here, they now spawn a half of a red heart. So in theory, what should be happening here is you spawn your clots by shooting. If those clots would ever die by getting hit by a tear, by getting hit by an enemy, it then spawns a half a red heart, which you can then pick up to make another clot. The issue with this is that clots you make from the hearts that spawn from a clot dying do not make another half a red heart itself, so you cannot go infinite off of this by having all of your clots, make the half a red heart, pick them all up, and then make more clots and then keep going forever, and you have not basically infinite amount of clots. That's not how this works, sadly. This is nice, I guess. In my opinion, this isn't that good. You even saw in the example earlier where the clots spawned the hearts, but since they died from getting hit by tears, I couldn't go and pick up the half a red hearts before they faded away, just because there were still enemies in the room shooting at me and coming at me, and if I went to go pick up the half a red heart, I would have gotten hit, and I did get hit from what you saw. So, in my opinion, it's kind of underwhelming. Actually, very underwhelming. It can be nice if you actually are able to pick up those half a red hearts to help keep your clots alive, because I mean, that's the whole thing with Tainted Eve, being able to keep all of your clots alive to deal all the damage, since you have 1.2 fire rate, which is abysmal, by the way. Listen, it's not terrible, it's not good, it's like a C tier. It has its uses if you can make the use of it, but you have to actively be trying to make this useful, to make it do something. And most of the time, whenever you pick this up, it's just a nice thing to have. And like, oh, you found an extra half a heart. Ooh, you can just make another clot. That's typically what happens here. So it's nothing more than a C. If anything, we could probably bump it down to a D, in my opinion. It's not that good, but either way, it's staying where it is right there. It's a C tier. Next one up is Tainted Samson Birthright Unstoppable Force. What this one does, it makes it so the Berserk timer gains 3 seconds instead of 1 single second after you kill an enemy. So this doesn't help at all. It's obviously getting the rage built up. You can see the character getting red over time as I deal damage and get hit. But what this Birthright basically does, it makes it so whenever I'm in that Berserk state and swinging my club and going crazy, it's easier for me to stay in that state if I want to. The one thing I was confused about initially with this Birthright is I thought it extended the amount of time innately you stay in the Berserk effect. So I kind of thought it was a downside at first, because in later game fights, obviously you want to make sure you're shooting tears. For things like Delirium or Mega Satan, I don't want to be in their face swinging my club. Basically what's happening during those fights is I'm waiting out the Berserk effect until I can shoot tears again, and I'm doing it then. But you can, as you can see, it doesn't actually make the timer longer. The timer which you stay in the Berserk is exactly the same. It only makes it so you get more time back whenever you kill enemies. So for those later game fights, I'm not stuck in that Berserk state for a longer period of time. I just need to be able to not kill things for a short amount of time, and then boom, bam, I turn back to normal to be able to shoot tears. That's what I thought the downside of this was, but when reading it better, there's no real downside. It basically makes it so if you want to stay in the Berserk state, you can stay in the Berserk state longer, which honestly, it helps a lot. Being able to pick things up over gaps, plus the a billion damage you get whenever you're in the Berserk state, it helps you clear a lot of rooms when clearing out floors, especially not even early game. It helps out in mid and late games, in late game as well. Maybe not in the chest or like the Sheol where there are bosses each room, but even in like the womb or the cathedral. Or I meant Sheol, I meant the dark room before, whatever, you know what I mean. Even a cathedral, clearing out those normal rooms, the Bone Club swing does a lot of damage. It does help you out a bunch. That's why this is B tier. I don't think it's A tier, just because you may not want to be in that Berserk state a whole lot, and especially for later game fights, you probably don't want to be killing things because you don't want to be in the Berserk state. But it does help clear the rooms to the boss in like mid, early, and even in the late game. So it is good. B tier, fellas. Solid B tier. Wow. Next one up is Tainted Azazel. So very similarly to normal Azazel, it makes it so the little sneeze attack you do or the little attacks you do, just do it in a bigger effect. Now keep in mind, similar to normal Azazel's Birthright, this doesn't increase damage at all. It basically it only doubles the size in which you sneeze. Now keep in mind, the sneeze is actually crazy good. Like not on top of it knocking back all enemies within the little sneeze, it does a solid amount of damage on top of applying that little Brimstone debuff. That means whenever you attack an enemy with that debuff, they take more damage and AoE happens around them. So basically, if you're able to apply more of that curse thing on the enemies, it's good. And since your sneeze is bigger, you apply it to more enemies, you push more enemies back, you deal more damage, get more hoes, get more dubs, and at the end of the day, you bring home that trophy, and you show Isaac's mom that you're the better player. Anyways, fellas, it's a B tier in my book. It is a lot better than normal Azazel's Birthright, just because I think the sneeze is a lot better outright, just because it does a lot more and helps out a lot more, especially in utility. Anyways, it's a B tier, fellas. Next Birthright up here is for Tainted Lazarus, a surprisingly S++ tier 1, but it has a little paragraph that goes beside it, so I'll read it real quick. The non-active form of Tainted Lazarus will now appear on screen as a ghostly form, which controls very similarly to the Esau when you're playing Jacob and Esau. So now you're playing as two characters, and as you can see here, the ghost form is still shooting out their tears, but keep in mind, this ghost guy is immune to all damage as they're a little ghost, but they only deal 25% of their normal damage. Now, 25% is a big cut, but it still does damage. Okay, holding down the drop key allows the active form to move the character independently from the other forms, similarly to Jacob and Esau. Using flip will cause the two characters to switch states while maintaining their same positions. Both characters receive the Birthright effect when the other one collects it. So, fellas, this is crazy good. Because not only, I mean, the downside here is the character only does 25% damage. But in the cases like this, where you have one form that is completely, utterly broken, it does not matter that they're only doing 25% damage. The damage they do and the utility they provide by being able to fire alongside you is crazy good. It doesn't, I guess, technically it doesn't double your damage, but it does help out a bunch to have your OP character basically always out. Because if you have a one broken character and one stupidly bad character, it doesn't really matter because they're always both going to be out at the same time. Now, obviously, you still have to keep in mind your health situation to make sure either of them doesn't die. But still, it is really good, and honestly, one of the best items you could ever find in Tainted Lazarus. It doesn't make the character a joke, it just makes them a lot easier to play, so if you ever find Birthright in Tainted Lazarus, please pick it up. It is only a good thing. Okay, and that is why S++ tier goes up with the fellas. Honestly, this by itself will win your run. I mean, you need to find other stuff like I'm saying before, but still, like, this innately will help. It's good. Fellas, S++ tier. Woo! Next one up, we got Tainted Eden's Birthright. What this one does, items gained before Birthright will not be re-rolled, neither by taking damage, nor by items like the D4 or Missing No or D100, but items gained afterwards will still be affected and re-rolled. So as we can see here, I just re-rolled a bunch of my items that I didn't pick up before. Anyways, you pick up the items before Birthright, they now stay, which is good. Having some kind of normalcy in your runs is always nice, so you'll be able to, like, know what you're going into. Because the biggest problem, in my opinion, with Tainted Eden is having your run being rolled into something that is completely abysmal and will not help you either deal damage or you just have 0 health. Those are the two main issues I have with Tainted Eden. So this helps provide a lot more stability throughout your run. Even if you find this early on, having a core set of items you can still, quote-unquote, be used to shooting and not just be surprised by something random that happens and your build just turns into complete doo-doo. Okay, again, normalcy is good. Being able to consistently know what kind of damage you will be doing is very nice. Being able to make sure you don't get rolled down into having 0 HP, always a nice thing in my opinion. It's not crazy, it's not bad, it is nice to have. It is very kind of dependent on the items you do find, but even if you don't have a lot of good stuff, again, that sense of normalcy you can get does help a lot. Consistency is key, fellas. Keep that in mind, even on Tainted Eden or something. Anyways, B tier. Alright, fellas, next up, I'm sure I'm going to take a few shots for this one, but Tainted Lost Birthright. Now, what it does, I'm going to the whole extreme with this example I'm showing you guys here, but what it does, it gives you 1 extra life. That's it. That's all it does. But it grants you new life that on death, you revive and you deal damage around you. So Tainted, it revives you in the same room. You deal 200 damage to enemies that are nearby you whenever you're reviving. And it can hit the same enemy up to 4 times. So this can do up to 800 damage to enemies. If you're crazy like I am in this specific run where I had 9 birthrights, you can do a whole lot of damage to enemies. Look at that, whole bunch of damage. But listen, fellas, I know the whole gimmick here is the Tainted Lost can't get any natural revives most of the time. You can still find like the Lost poster or the missing poster to give you an extra life, and there's some minuscule ways to be able to get a revive. And the whole point of this birthright is like, oh, it's one of basically the only items that gives you a revive naturally. The only issue with that is I don't think revive items are actually just that good, right? Unless it's 9 lives where you get to revive 9 times, which is sick, it's not that good. Because most of the times, if you're dying, it's just because you have a bad build, the bad stuff is going on, or like you're not good, right? You're just not good at the game. And if you revive, you're gonna revive back in the same room and just die again, in my opinion. I don't hold revives in very high regard. Maybe for Tainted Lost it's a bit better, but in my head, I'm comparing this to finding a single holy card on the floor. And in my opinion, finding the holy card is probably better because it doesn't stun me in place and basically make it so the enemies wait in the room for me to then sit back up and then whack me back down again. Okay, I would prefer to get a holy card over Birthright on Tainted Lost because I am not stupid enough to do what I'm doing here and try to use the Birthright to do damage, which keep in mind, is it just one-shot Duke of Flies? Is that an achievement? Not really. It's not that good, fellas. I'm putting it in D tier. Revive is always nice, but like, it's not going to save your run. Next one up, we got Tainted Lilith. What this one does, another little paragraph. Familiars that normally follow Tainted Lilith will instead act like and stack on top of her jello familiar. So they shoot out of her tummy, as we can see here in just a second. The dry baby, Brother Bobby, even the holy water will now get slapped out of your tummy like the jello familiar. Now the melee attack gains a flat +3 damage up per familiar. So if you have a run where you find a whole bunch of familiars, the slap damage that goes out is going to be doing a lot more damage. Now, obviously, you can still like slap him out and then shoot him out, because alongside that, it acts so kind of similarly to King Baby, where all the familiars in your little circle will be aiming at whatever enemy is closest. Very similar to how it acts, how Jello acts outright, but now all the familiars will mimic that kind of shooting style. It is very good. It is surprisingly decent. As long as you find any kind of additional familiars, it is very similar to Lilith's situation, where you need to have the familiars in order for this to do kind of anything. But I mean, in this case here, I mean, I have, what, 2 or 3 familiars? It's nice. And the additional damage it gives you onto the slap is very cool as well. Even if you don't use the tears they shoot out, being able to slap and deal more damage is always nice to have, in my opinion. At the end of the day, I did throw it in a B tier. I think B is very nice. Maybe it's like a low B, in my opinion, just because of how dependent it is on you finding other familiars. And there's no guarantee you find a single other familiar in your run. So maybe it's worse than that. Maybe it's better than this. It's all dependent on the run. At the end of the day, it's the Binding of Isaac, fellas. That's how we play the game. Anyways, I'm yapping a little bit. It's B tier, fellas. B tier. Now, fellas, as much as I want to be a little contrarian who goes against the grain and just says my own opinions and doesn't stick with the masses, Tainted Keeper's Birthright is stupidly crazy, both fun and crazy good. What it does, it strongly attracts the coins dropped by murdered enemies from a short distance. So you can see in the clips here, whenever I murder something, the coin gets sucked into me. Now, typically, that doesn't happen, obviously, and you have to go around and try to pick up the coin before it disappears, just because that's how Tainted Keeper works. So, this is crazy good. Not only is it, like, a really cool effect, just, like, I guess, looks-wise, but the effect is crazy good. It almost guarantees you will not miss a single penny from an enemy. Obviously, there's still cases where you're going to be missing a few, which happens. But the more stuff you're able to pick up equals the more items you're able to buy, which means the more damage you do, which means the more money you gain, which means the more items you get, which means the more damage you do, and you just keep going in an endless circle until you die a rich man. Money, 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 balling everywhere, as the quote says. Fellas, this is a crazy good birthright. One of the best. It will, in fact, carry your run. Even if you find it later in the game, being able to attract pennies towards you is still good, because guess what? Money's still your health, fellas. So even if you're in, like, the chest or something where there's no more shops or anything, being able to attract the coins that are near you helps guarantee that you live. Good. S++ tier. Let's go, Keeper. Let's go. Next up, honestly, one of the best birthrights, which no one knows about, Tainted Apollyon. What this one does, holding down the fire button causes the Abyssed Locust to continually deal damage instead of returning. So in this clip here, it's not really doing too much. You can see I'm throwing out the locusts and they're coming back pretty soon after. But let me jump forward to a little bit later in this video to an actual fight later in the womb. Keep in mind, I only have the mind. I have no items besides the locust. And watch how fast this murders this boss. Okay, see how the locusts are following and sticking on the boss instead of returning and just doing consistent damage? That is crazy. Like, the damage this does is actually insane. I only have 5 or 6 of locusts here. So, I mean, in a normal run, you will have more locusts than that. This is a crazy, crazy good birthright effect. In all honesty, this could be S++ tier. Okay, I think I'm throwing it in high S tier. I don't have the specific reasons as to why. It is crazy good. I did do one more boss. Let's watch me murder the mom's heart fight. Just watch. I need to clear out the eyes first. But keep in mind, you need to hold down the fire button to make sure the flies stay on it. At one point in the fight, I believe I shoot and then I let go of the fire and they come back to me. I believe I do it sometime soon. If I don't, just trust me. See, I stop firing, the flies come back. You just need to hold down the fire button and the flies go absolutely insane. Either way, this is like S or S+ tier. I'm being, I guess, a bit mad about Tainted Apollyon. I don't know why I threw it in S tier. Either way, this is crazy good, fellas. This is a crazy good birthright. My video ended S tier, fellas. S tier. S tier. Next one up, one of honestly my favorite birthrights is Tainted Forgotten, Recall. So what this one does, it gives you that pocket active item you can see in the bottom right, Recall, which basically makes it so whenever you throw out the Bony Boy, you can just use your pocket active item button to recall the Bony Boy. Now, keep in mind, the little pull back that it does and lands in your hands does do damage. So as you saw in the clip there, is I throw the Bony Boy, I go to the other side, and whenever it comes back to me, it deals damage to the things in between. It's really good. This is just like a big quality of life thing for Tainted Forgotten. Like, honestly, I think it's kind of crazy good. I threw it in S tier because alongside the very cool effect of being able to throw it and make it come back, you now don't have to ever retrieve the bony boy. You can honestly just throw it, wait for the recall active to come back because it's very quick, as you can see, and just pull it back to you and throw it again. So this is a stupidly big quality of life buff for Tainted Forgotten. It's stupidly good, fellas. Like, S tier good. I don't know what else to say. It's really cool. It's really good. It helps a bunch. S tier. Easy S tier. Next up, fellas, is Tainted Bethany's Birthright artifact. What this one does, as you can see, I picked it up, and it gives you 4 random Lemegeddon wisps with a quality of 3 or higher. Keep in mind, it is guaranteed the items you get from this will be quality 3 or higher. Now, obviously, you can see on the screen here as well, the wisps you get from this are larger and therefore have more HP than normal wisps, so they are harder to get rid of, and they will stay longer than usual, which is very nice. The issue with this is that last sentence, they will stay around longer, which implies they will eventually leave. Okay, unless your run is stupidly crazy broken and you have so many wisps around you that can tank the shots instead of these quality 3 or 4 items that spawn from this birthright, these items are just going to be going away over time. Now, especially during later game bosses that have bullet hell things that are harder to have all of your wisps dodge, eventually you will lose these wisps, which is why it's only C tier. Now, I'm glad they made this birthright different from normal Bethany's and not just, oh, occasionally using the red heart charges is free. It's cooler in my opinion. Doesn't mean it's better, just because I think the likelihood of them going away is super not cool. And obviously, you can get quality 3 or 4 items that are anti-synergize. Like here, I got Ipecac and Tiny Planet. That is terrible. But thank God I was just recording for this, and it wasn't a permanent run, because I probably would have died or just wanted to lose the wisps. So, it's not that good. It can be good, don't get me wrong, depending on the items you do get. But just for the odds of, like, just because of the chance that those then go away, it's not good. Therefore, C tier, fellas. Big C tier. Alright, so last birthright up is Tainted Jacob's. So a Tainted Jacob's one here is. It basically splits it, so Dark Esau, instead of being one fella, he turns into 2 fellas. Now, both Esau's will always charge at the exact same time, so you can still, time things correctly. And one will not charge if the other one is not in position, so obviously they will be charging at the same time. They're not going to be off sync at any point during time. And alongside that, your Anima Soul will now tie down both Esau's, and you can release them both individually. So basically, this doubles your damage. If you think about it, being able to have 2 Esau's, because both Esau's do a billion jillion damage if they're doing contact damage to an enemy. So hey, if you have 2 of them, that means you do 2 billion jillion damage to all enemies. Fellas, that's pretty good in my opinion. I don't know. If you're a gamer, honestly, fellas, S++ tier. You just have to not be bad, because obviously there's still the same downsides. If you get hit by Dark Esau at any point, it's the same thing as you get hit by normal Dark Esau, or like the other Dark Esau, You turn into the ghost guy, like I did here, like a stupid idiot. But listen, it's fun. Is it the best thing? Honestly, it's not bad. Like, I ironically put it in S++ tier, just because, honestly, if you're really good at using Dark Esau, this is really good. Like, I'm not even joking. It is really good. Because if you don't know, Dark Esau does ignore boss armor. So it basically chunks a lot of both early game bosses, mid game bosses, and to end game bosses as well, just because it does ignore the boss armor. It's really good. Now, realistically, it should probably go in maybe an A tier or a B tier, depending on your skill level. But obviously, fellas, I'm a gamer. It's going in S++ tier. If you think otherwise, and you think it deserves to go in F tier, you're just not a gamer. You're just not enough of a gamer. Anyways, fellas, that's the list. What do we think? Well, fellas, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys sticking around all the way till the end. Let me know what other tier lists I should do later. Anyways, you guys should watch these other fun tier lists I made about some cool other things. Anyways, later, fellas. Bye-bye. Later.